Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, all about 2025. Here's what I think is going to happen to the Vancouver real estate market this year. Real quick, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people just like you buy and sell real estate across the Lower Mainland. So if that sounds interesting to you, or you just wanted to chat about your real estate situation with me one-on-one, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below and on screen, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. All right, we're gonna hop right into it. Hope you had a happy new year. January 2nd today as I record this video, and I have yet to do a full video on what exactly I believe is going to happen with the 2025 Vancouver real estate market. It's going to be a market that's very different, in my opinion, than we have seen since prior to the pandemic. There's been not just policy changes, which we'll touch on a little bit, but there's been a lot of change with interest rates, mortgage rates, buyer sentiment, who the buyers are. We're going to cover all of it right now. I would say, initially what I think we're going to see in this first half of the year is we're going to see the re-emergence of the first-time buyer and that end user purchaser. So who I'm referring to here is people that are actually purchasing a home for what it was designed to be, a home. I think we're going to have a lot of investors shifting out of the market, at least for now, kind of a hold and see pattern. And so I think over this first 6 months of this year, we're going to have the re-emergence of the first-time buyer. We have incentives in place for first-time buyers now, not necessarily great things per se. So one of them being the 30-year amortization on insured mortgages. And so what this does for a first-time buyer, if they're purchasing either a new construction or a resale property, they're going to be able to have some increased buying power there. As you extend the amortization by the 5 years from 25 to 30, it means you have longer to pay off your loan. So your affordability, your monthly payments comes down. So in essence, you're able to get approved for, you're able to have some additional buying power in there, 5 to 8% additional buying power. So what this means for a first-time buyer getting into the market, not only are you going to have more selection when it comes to inventory, we have more inventory on the market than we've seen in several years, but you're also going to be able to afford more in terms of mortgage rate. Your mortgage rate on that note is actually going to come down a little bit further, in my opinion, over the first half of this year. Right now we're sitting at, on a 5-year fixed, in the low 4s, or even in the 3s if it's an insured mortgage. So I think mortgage rates are going to come down a little bit further, and you're going to have this extended amortization that's going to make it easier for first-time buyers to get into the market. I just talked about how the investors, I think they're going to wait on the sidelines a little bit. We're going to see a couple things happen. Number one, as investors that hold rental properties, as these tenants perhaps move on to other properties, they give notice, they leave. I think a lot of these investors are going to continue this trend of putting their homes on the market and not putting another tenant in that property. Overall, what we saw with rents over the last 12 months, 12 to 18 months really, is we saw rental rates come down across the Lower Mainland, including Vancouver. So the rental market is not quite as lucrative for investors. So that first-time buyer, from a purchasing and competition perspective, they're not going to be competing with all of these investors that want to get into the market. I will touch on a specific type of investor that I think is going to be jumping into the market more frequently this year in a sec, but you're not going to be competing with all of these rental investors. So you're going to have more to choose from. You're going to have a bit more of a buying power, a little bit more incentive for you as well. So I think it's going to be much easier for first-time buyers to get into this market, especially in that condo market. Now you might think that first-time buyers, of course, they're buying condos. They're buying the lowest priced condos, 500 grand, 550,000. This is no longer the case in the market. I did first-time home buyer sales last year of $1 million and even greater than that. And it's going to touch on my next point that I think we're going to see in 2025. What we're going to see more of is we're going to see more of this wealth transfer that's happening from the baby boomer generations to their children's. Now, I was reading an article in the Financial Post. It was talking about how over the next few years in Canada, $1 trillion is expected to transfer from the baby boomers to the younger generations. And when you really think about, when wealth gets passed down or money gets passed down, for most people, if they don't already own a home, again, jumping back to that concept of a home being a home, providing stability for most people, if they don't have that yet, that's going to be the first place that, a lot of that money is going to go into. And what I've noticed in my business as well, I think I've talked about it in previous videos, is today's first-time buyer, they're not putting down the minimum 5%. They're not putting down 10% in many cases. Very often they're putting down 15, 25, 35, 40, even 50% down getting put into the market. So as we see this wealth transfer, again, we're going to see that first-time buyer or even the buyer that's now moving up. I think transitional buying is going to come back into the market as well, which really fell off in 2024. So it goes both ways. Buyers that are moving up into larger properties, but also downsizers as well. I think 2025 is kind of setting the correct environment for that to happen. Again, with rates coming down a little bit. Last year, sellers weren't truly motivated because I think deep down inside, they really didn't know what their next move was going to be. They were not excited about jumping into higher mortgage rates. And so we saw a lot of homes on the market, yes. We saw a lot of homes asking very high prices outside of market value. And this is why we saw sales quantity overall down for much of the year. However, at the end of 2024, October, November, December, sales really picked up. In Greater Vancouver, December, year over year, sales up 30%, over 30% in December. On the Fraser Valley side, they were up 20%. Year over year compared to December prior. And I think we're going to continue to see some momentum. But, that buyer that is shifting, that is moving up or they're downsizing, I think they're going to be a lot more encouraged now to actually make a move. And in doing so, what I expect to see is we're going to see now some more motivated sellers. We're going to see sellers putting their home on the market at the right prices because they want to make their own moves. And this is very important. This is, we're going to have less dead inventory, in my opinion, this year. Now, when we talk about prices, because everyone cares, of course, about prices, if you read around with, different brokerages, different organizations, most are suggesting that prices are going to grow this year, anywhere from, say, 3% to even 10%, I read as well. If we look at last year, we basically saw, year over year prices go up marginally, but it really depends on a segment basis, right? Condos, I don't have the data right in front of me, but it's going to end up pretty flat, maybe down year over year. Townhomes, detached homes, they will be up slightly. I think we're going to see a bit of a similar trend in that, condos is where we're going to see a lot of the supply. We're going to see investors kind of waiting on the sidelines. So I think there's going to be a little bit less of a demand for the condos per se, but I think at the entry level price point, at the bottom end of the price point, so, I would call that in, say, Burnaby, Brentwood, Metrotown, something newer around that one bedroom, 600,000, maybe in the low heat area, that one bedroom, maybe 570, 575, and depending on your, so on and so forth, depending on where you're looking, I think those prices maintain quite well because there will generally be a lot of pressure on those price points. Where I think there will be value to be had is some of the larger condos. If I'm shopping around for a larger condo in 2025, when I say larger, I mean 2-bedroom plus, I'm looking in Brentwood, I'm looking in Surrey Central, even 1-bedrooms over there. I'm looking at 1-bedrooms in Surrey Central. I'm always looking at downtown Vancouver, which I believe is still undervalued when you look at what you're getting for the price. So I think there's going to be opportunities in kind of that the condo segment that stretches on the Greater Vancouver side, let's say above 800,000, 775 to 800,000. On the Fraser Valley side, say Surrey Central, on the condos that go above that 550, 600,000 mark, I think there's going to be opportunity there. Circling back to the pricing, I expect, and I don't love to group all product types together, the condos, the townhomes, the detached, but I personally expect we are going to see price growth somewhere between 4 and 5%. I think it's going to be pretty modest. I don't think that we're going to head into a spring market and we're going to enter into this frenzy to get into the market. I do think we're going to have more sales activity versus last year, again, because we're going to have more inventory on the market at reasonable prices. So I'm expecting price growth around 4 or 5%. I think the bulk of that is going to be on the detached home side. I think just with the detached home element, you have people that are moving up that I just talked about, moving into those detached homes, especially if they have a suite. You have developers, smaller builders that want to get into these detached homes, build either duplexes or multiplexes. Anytime your pool of buyer is more than one segment of the population, that's going to help prices appreciate more. So more price appreciation on the detached side as it carries the land. Less on the condo side. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where that condo pricing rolls out. But I think overall, we're going to see some modest price growth through the year. We're going to see some enhanced activity for sure. We're going to see end users come back into the market. We're going to see people buying a home because it's a home coming back into the market. And in the second half of the year, I think if we start to see more of this activity, and really depending on what happens with interest rates, it's anybody's guess how many more cuts we may have this year. But investors generally in the Vancouver area, they don't typically sit on the sideline for too long. I mentioned earlier in the video, there's one specific type of investor that I've seen personally emerge with the people that I'm working with, and I think is going to grow more in 2025. And that's going to be the investor, the newbie investor that is purchasing a condo or some sort of property for their children, for their future children or children they have today, young kids today. I think a lot of people are realizing that the way to give their children a step up or a leg up in life, or at least some stability and some security, is not only trying to save up for their education, but often more importantly, saving up so that they have a home when they're 18, 19 years old. And I did I was able to work with a few people last year that were in that mode, purchasing condos for their children. And right now the child might be 7 or 8 years old. It was actually really rewarding and heartwarming for me to be involved in transactions like that, where we're selling a condo and I see the child on possession day come in and smiling and looking out the window, not knowing that this is her parents, kind of trying to give you a leg up in life. And I think we're going to see, as I talked about, the wealth transfer. That's the name of the game. We're going to see a lot more of that, and people putting into real estate so that they and their family have more stability in the future. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Again, if you want to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me for a call, or you can just send me a text, give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever is easiest for you. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and consider subscribing. What that does is it takes this video and it sends it out to more people so they can also learn from it. But I want to thank you so much for watching this week's video, and I look forward to seeing you next week.